to the Node.js series. In this video, we will talk about the HTTP module. HTTP module in Node.js, it's a built-in module that allows you to create HTTP servers and clients, enabling your application to send and receive data over the web. So it uses the HTTP protocol. Now, let's talk about this in just simple terms. Imagine you're opening a website in your browser, like clicking on, let's say, website like google.com. Behind the scenes, your browser sends a request and some server somewhere sends back a response. That entire communication, that is sending and receiving the data, happens using something called like HTTP protocol. So now in Node.js, if you want to create your own web server, like your own mini version of Google or let's say Facebook, you use the built-in HTTP module. Let's understand this with the help of an example. There is no need to externally install the HTTP module. It is a built-in module, so you can import it using import HTTP from HTTP. Now we are going to create a variable that will create a server. So let's say const server equals to HTTP dot create server. This create server method is used to create the server to which Node.js will be able to talk. Now inside this, you need to pass a callback. This accepts a callback. So if you see here, we need a listener. We need a request listener. So we need to pass a callback. Now inside this, you will be having two parameters. First one is the request. Second one is response. You can refer to it as REQ or RES. And you can also refer it to as request and response. All right. Now we have to understand what is the purpose of these request and response parameters. The request stands for the request coming from the client or from the browser, while RES response stands for the response we will send back to the browser. Okay, now we have to send the response. Now that response we will be able to send using the end method. You need to attach response.end, means you need to attach end method with the response object. Both of these parameters, they represent the objects. So let's say I write hello from Node.js. Now it is not possible to run the program without going to the browser because we need a client and it's going to create a server. So we need a port number for that. We need to attach listen method with the server variable listen. So again, there will be two parameters. As you can see, it needs to listen to the port number. So the port number, it could be anything. If all the ports are available, you can use any of them unless there is some application in your system that is using it. So for now, I'll be using 3000 and there needs to be a callback. So that callback, I'll be specifying console.log server is running. Server is running at port number 3000. All right, so let's run our program. Node HTTP, and you're going to get the server is running at 3000. Now you need to go to your browser because it's a client and you need to put up your request. So let's go to the browser. You must type localhost 3000, hit enter, and you will be getting a response. Hello from Node.js. You can also log onto the console, that whenever there is a request, it should log a message on the console as well. So let's say I'll just type here, I'll be writing here console.log new request from the client. Right. So let's check again. So I put up the request. So you see that it's not working here. Reason is you need to restart your server. So it's much better if you use nodemon instead of writing node here. So anyhow, you need to restart your server this way and check it again. Put up the request. Now you can see that it's putting up the request. Now the request is twice because the first one is for the URL, second one is for the favicon. So this happens actually in browsers because you also have a favicon and the other one is for the URL. You can just simply ignore the duplicate message that it is logging onto the terminal. Now let's understand the exact purpose of using this end method. So this line means that you want to end the response and send this message. By the way, it can be empty as well. Now I'll be using nodemon instead. I don't want to start my server again and again. Nodemon HTTP. Okay, so I'll put up the request and it doesn't print anything, but yeah, there was a request. Okay, so if you want to end your response with a message, you can put a message, or there's another way you can write response.write, which is simply to write a message, not for ending the server, not for ending the response, but only to type a simple message. Let's say hello from Node.js. You need to take care that every time you have to end your response, you need to end it. Now let's get back. So hello from Node.js. So it is login. All right. Now let's say if you have you want to write another response, means another message. I'll just write here hello again. Right, check. So you see that we are able to get multiple messages as well. But it is possible, like, is it possible if I don't use this here? And now if I check it again, you see that it keeps loading. So it's very important that every time, whatsoever the task you want your server to do, you need to end the response. You need to use response.end, otherwise it won't work out. So once again, response.end, and now it works. So you got your messages. Now let's talk about headers. You must go to the inspect element, open the network tab and just refresh your page, and you will be able to see the status codes 200. Okay, so it means that your page was well enough to be shown, means your URL was correct and so on. So what is a header? It's just an extra information which is sent along with every request and response. So it's just like a label or tags that describe what is being sent, like what is inside, who sent it, and how to handle it, these kinds of things. So you can see these, this is the status code, right? And these are the headers, if you can see. text/html. So by default it's showing text/html, could be anything, cookie, and so on, right? So in Node.js, what happens, even if you don't set the headers yourself, Node.js is just smart enough to send some defaults. So as you can see, it is showing us 200 OK, and also a content type that you just have seen here. The content type, that was supposed to be maybe a response header. Okay, that's not, I don't think so it's visible here as of now. Okay, but still your server is going to run. But point is, if you want to have full control, like you want to send a JSON, or you want to force a 404 status code, an error, then in that case you should be using a method called as response.writeHead. So you need to use it right for you. Let's say console response dot, I need to use write head, and there will be two parameters, status code, and I would like to have content type. So status code, I need 200. Second one, the content type, like what type of content it should display. Content type, so let's say it needs to be simply text/plain, text/plain, right? Anyhow, it was still working, so you just refresh it, and just open the headers. These are the response headers. Yeah, now it's showing. Content type, maybe it wasn't showing that time. It's text/plain. Our example, you can also go to different paths, and you can also enforce the status codes like 404 as well. Now let's say you're having an application that has certain routes like home, about, contact page. So in that case, it has to display a different content. Every URL must display a different content. And if the URL is not valid, you can enforce a 404 status code and end your response. So let me just comment this one out, and we are going to freshly start again. And I'm just going to copy this much code from here. Let's uncomment. All I need to just I'm simply going to remove all this, right? Now you can use conditions, you can use if else if, or you can also use switch statements. So I'll be using if statement. I'm going to check if my request.url. Now this request.url, it's simply this request.url is the property that tells you what URL the user has requested. So if it is a simple slash, and in that case you're going to response.end. Now response.end, let's say I'm simply going to print a message that this is a home page, nothing more than this. A home page is fine, right? Similarly, I can have else if statement, else if request.url equals to about response.end about page, else if one more time request, let me just minimize it, request.url if it's a contact page slash contact response dot end contact page, right? Else means if none of these requests were made, then in that case you need to response dot end not found. Also, you must set the status code by using response dot write head. That needs to be 404 or 404. Alright, so this is ready. Now you can make your server to listen. And our app is already running. So we shall go to home page first. Let's see what it prints. Localhost 3000, and that's printing home page for us. Similarly, if I go to, let's say, about, okay, there seems some problem here. Let's see what is the issue. The app crashed, waiting for file changes. See, what we did is we are not specifying the response.write head for each and every URL. So that's necessary. You provide it for all the URLs, right? Okay, that seems fine. Let's check. So this prints, then go to contact, right? Now I'll go to a page that does not exist. Let's say services. So it does not exist, so that's why it will print not found. And if you check the status code for this, I refresh, and that's 404. If you want, you can also make your server to read the HTML content. So the methods like write method and end method can read your HTML code as well. Now let's say if I write here h1 and h1. Also, let's use some style. This is not the standard way of writing the HTML code. We have other ways for that, but we can test it once because we are learning basics. Background color should be pink. So let's see. So I'm already at the home page. You see that it is not reading it as an HTML content but as a plain text. So it's very important what you have mentioned in the content type. The content type here is plain. So you must make it as HTML. So it means that how you want the server to read the content that you want to send. So now you once again see, and you see that it is printing home page in red color, and it's an h1 tag, but the background color it's not printing because there was supposed to be a hyphen over here. Now it will print in the background color. Let's modify this a bit. You want that whenever the client is accessing a page, then a log file should be created, and all the logs when the user is logging on to the website should be put into a particular file. So for this, first of all, let's test it for only home page as of now. So I'm going to create one variable, let's say log message equals to request received request received on. So I'll be using new date function, new date method. So I'll be enclosing this inside the curly braces, and I need to use backticks because I'll be using template literal instead. So on new date. Okay, so my template literal new date is ready. Dot to, I'm going to use to locale string. All right, now if you remember, we did the file system, and now we will be importing the file. Import fs from the file system module, right? So we'll be using write file or any other method. Write file is actually going to, every time the user is logging to the website, the logs are going to be overwritten. So it's much better if we use append file. Now in the append file, we will be having certain parameters. So my first parameter here will be, as you can see, the path means the file name. Second will be the string, means the message that I want to put in that file. And third one will be the callback function. So I'm going to make a file log.txt, and what message should be logged? Log msg. And I need the callback function that contains the parameter error. So if there is an error, then console.log error writing into the file, or else console.log log written into the file. Okay, so let's check if this works for us. Let's go to home page and let's check the result, log written into the file, and we should be having log.txt here, request received on this date, and this is the time. Same way, if let's wait for some time, and we are going to put up another request on the home page. Let's put up another request. So let's check the log. Yeah, so you can see that another request is there, request received at, this was 7:23 and this is 7:24. Now would you know that how we can perform certain tasks using the HTTP server? This way you can make your server to do anything that you want. In this case, we are putting the logs. We are using fs.append file. You could use write file as well. You can also use read file to make your server to read the files onto the server. So whatsoever the content your file contains will be read onto the server. The contents will be visible to you in the browser. Just like here we are writing the HTML content, right? So instead of putting the HTML content here in the response.end method, you can write your content, HTML content, separately in an HTML file. If your code is complex, there are so many lines of HTML codes which cannot be written here. As I already told you, this is not standard way to use to show the HTML content on the browser. So related to whatever I'm saying now, related to this situation, I have a question for you, a practical based task. Consider it seriously and take it as your home assignment. You need to create a simple Node.js HTTP server that listens on port 3000 and uses fs.read file to serve static HTML files like you got index.html, about.html, and contact.html. based on request URL. So you must return the file contents with proper content type, that is text/HTML. It's very important that it needs to be /HTML, because otherwise the contents will be read as a plain text. So this header should be attached, and you should respond with a 404 page if the requested file does not exist. So please complete this task. I hope you enjoyed. So that's all for this video. See you in the next one.